Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of STEM Girls Virtual. My name is Emily, and I'm here on behalf of Cincinnati Museum Center. On this show, we talk about different careers in the STEM fields, those fields being science, technology, engineering, and math. Today, we're speaking with Sophie Revis of Groundwork Ohio River Valley. She is a program coordinator there. Sophie, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So can you give us some background information on Groundwork Ohio River Valley?
Sure thing. Groundwork Ohio River Valley is part of a national network of environmental justice organizations called Groundwork USA. Groundwork USA was formed in the late 90s by the EPA and the National Park Service. Our Groundwork Trust started in just September 2019, so we're pretty new. And there are over 20 trusts across the country, so it's a pretty robust network. So there are 20 groundwork trusts in the nation, and we are the trust that serves the Cincinnati area. Okay. We are all brought together by a common purpose. We believe that where the environment and justice meet. It is our mission to bring about the equitable regeneration of the natural environment within the urban environment. So there are two main parts to this. One is environmental, and the other is social. So there's a common misperception that there isn't nature in our cities, that it's far away somewhere, like a national park. But if you look around, there are plants, bugs, critters, and green spaces everywhere in the city. And at Groundwork, we recognize the need to conserve and restore this urban nature. But we also know that lower income and minority communities are subjected to more pollution and have fewer environmental assets, like clean, safe, and biodiverse parks. These are the values that shape all of our programs.
Oh, wow. And yeah, and Cincinnati's pretty lucky. We do have a lot of green spaces within the city. Some are probably better maintained than others. So yeah, that's really interesting to think that, there is still greenery around. Sometimes you just might have to look harder for it. But you're the program coordinator at Groundwork. So what are your responsibilities as the program coordinator?
Yeah, so I have a few main responsibilities. One is communications, which is social media, press releases, websites, and things like that. I also manage the Green Team, which is our workforce education program for high schoolers. And I'm also in charge of a new program called Climate Safe Neighborhoods, which is a national initiative to prepare vulnerable neighborhoods for the effects of climate change, some of which are extreme heat and flooding. Unsurprisingly, the most vulnerable communities are low income and minority. And so it is my job to work with vulnerable communities to prepare for these threats.
Okay. And so those are a lot of different things you're working on. And sounds like really awesome and important work. Can you talk a little bit more about the Green Team? If a teenager is interested, where should they go to learn more?
Sure. The Green Team is a paid workforce education program for high school students. We learn about the environment, environmental justice, outdoor recreation, and basic job skills with an emphasis on green job skills. Youth in the Green Team work in their communities to restore and enhance their environments through forestry, trail building, and gardening. And they also learn more about the ecosystem, environmental challenges in Cincinnati, and how to recreate safely outdoors. So we have a Green Team that runs for 2 months in the summer and are working on getting a year-long Green Team up and running right now. So that's actually really exciting. To learn more, you can go to our website at groundworkorv.org or follow us on Facebook and Instagram at groundworkorv.
Okay, and we'll share your social media pages and website in the event description so people can find it. To talk more about Green Team, that sounds like a really great in-depth program for kids who might be interested in learning more, not just about the nature in their city, but if they want a career in environmental science or something like that, this is a really great opportunity, it sounds like, to try that out in high school and not wait until after you graduate. So that sounds really great, and I love that you're trying to get it year-round. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We're going to have like 3 Green Teams around the city. It's looking like Aiken, Euler, and I'm not sure where the other one is right now, but it's so exciting. Like for most teens, this is their first job, and I think it's a really cool job. A lot of teenagers work in like McDonald's as their first job, and this is just an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
To get started. course.
And we work with Aiken and Euler a lot at the Museum Center. They're great schools, so I'm sure the third school is also fantastic. So they're great schools to work with. But you also have a program for young adults if they are also interested in doing this, and it's called the Green Corps, correct?
Correct. So the Green Corps is sort of a step up from the Green Team. It is for young adults, so around 18 to 24, and is year-round. The Green Corps is for people interested in environmental work, but aren't necessarily interested in going to college or the higher education track. It's, of course, different from the Green Team, and it gets more in depth with the ecology of our region. For example, Green Corps employees learn about how plants and animals affect each other and rely on each other, the impact of invasive or non-native species, and the importance of native plants, and so much more. And that is all crucial information for the work that they actually do, which is like forest restoration, trail building, and native seed propagation. The Green Corps does some pretty intense work. Almost daily, they're running chainsaws and power tools and operate heavy machinery like excavators.
Yeah, so like real life experience out. So if you love nature, this sounds like a great job to have. You get to enjoy it, also learn as you're going. If you like enjoy working with your hands or really kind of physical job, that sounds really awesome.
Yeah.
And you get to use like power tools. So
Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so you can also learn about Green Corps through your website as well, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Something I forgot to mention is that we also focus on like personal goal attainment.
Oh, okay.
So if like they didn't have a GED or wanted to start a bank account, we would work with them and like to get those things going in their lives. So it's much more than just a workforce program.
Mm-hmm.
We want to build people up to be their best selves.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love that. And you also, so we're talking about kind of service work in a sense. You also did a year of Americorps. Can you tell us a little bit about your year and what you learned in your time with that? Did it kind of help set you off on maybe a different type of career path or anything like that?
Absolutely. So in high school, I was sort of lost. I was like, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do. I felt all this pressure, but I heard about Americorps and I decided to give it a shot. It was actually crucial in setting me on this path that I'm on today. So Americorps, National Civilian Community Corps, is a young adult workforce program, sort of like the Green Corps, but it's only a year long. You travel around the country. I went to Colorado for the first time. That's where I learned how to use chainsaws. I went to Arkansas to cut fire line to manage a wildfire, or not a wildfire, but a prescribed burn, which is something that Forest Service workers will use to like manage their forests. I did forest restoration in Colorado in the Rocky Mountain foothills. That was incredible. So I got to cut down burnt trees in this like post-apocalyptic landscape, pretty much, to create erosion barriers, which we planted wild grasses behind to help restart the forest, basically. I went to New York City after Superstorm Sandy to help with disaster relief, because there's all this black mold in people's homes after the water damage, and black mold can cause long-term health issues. So we were helping a nonprofit there gut homes that had this black mold. And one of my favorite projects was working in Winter Park, Colorado with the National Sports Center for the Disabled, which was working with people of different mental, physical, and sensory abilities to experience outdoor recreation. So for example, we help people with blindness go mountain climbing. And that was really impactful to know that people aren't limited by the way they are born, and it's important to help them do that. And so in Americorps, I learned that I find immense joy working outside in nature to help other people. And if you don't know what you're going to go to college for, or if anything, I couldn't recommend that as an experience enough.
Yeah, and I think in high school, We work with a lot of high schoolers at the museum, either as guests or as volunteers. And I think there's a lot of pressure on high schoolers to immediately know what they want to do when they're 16, 17. They have lots of interests. So I think, utilizing something like Americorps is really great to kind of figure out. And it sounds like you did a lot just in 1 year. You were all over, you got to travel, you got to meet all different types of people, do all these different types of jobs. So that's really neat that you got to do that. And I never would have thought that Americorps would be helping after a natural disaster. So I just learned something that they can be utilized to do that. So yeah, that sounds like a really, really awesome year after high school to get to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely transformative.
Yeah. I think I've had other friends do AmeriCorps, and they have said very similar things, that they enjoyed it immensely. And they've done it in different parts of their life. So maybe not after high school, but after college. They took a gap year during college. So yeah, it's really neat. So you have a job in STEM now, essentially. Have you always been interested in STEM?
No, I have not. In high school, I really lost my passion for learning. I couldn't really care much about STEM. I didn't graduate with a very high GPA or anything. But after my AmeriCorps year, that's when I was like revitalized to care about STEM and learn that it has real world implications and can really help people.
Yeah. And I think, your interests vary and change, especially when you're younger. Sometimes your love of something comes later in life. Sometimes it comes really young. I always knew I wanted to work in a museum. I just didn't know how. But so I think it's always good to explore different interests and see where it leads you, whether that's in STEM or somewhere else. Yeah, right. I get that. So we're living in the world of COVID right now.
Yeah.
But do you have a typical work day, or did you pre-COVID?
I pretty much never had a typical work day. So since I run the Green Team and I do this climate advocacy, and I also am programmatic assistant for the Green Corps, my work days are pretty varied, which I'm thankful for because it's easy for me to get bored of things really quickly. So on any given day, I could be putting a video together for our social media, or managing the Green Team and teaching them how to build a sustainable trail, or I could be teaching one of the Green Corps employees how to use a chainsaw, or meeting with community members about climate change. So there's no real typical work day for me.
Yeah, and I too like the idea of not having a typical maybe desk job. I like having variety. I get to interview people like you, get to work with community partners. So I think that's really awesome that you have this varied day. So there's always something new happening. So yeah, I think that's really cool. So again, we're living in COVID, but what are some challenges you face in your job?
Well, it kind of goes along with the lack of a typical workday. So my role is changing pretty regularly. So it's difficult to get acclimated to so many new things so quickly. But I also like that because it keeps me sharp and on my toes. Mm-hmm. Another challenge I face is the lack of structure in a lot of nonprofits, especially young nonprofits. There's a lack of structure and a lack of systems. So while I'm actually working on the outcomes of projects, I also have to set up a structure for myself to be successful. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, like the outdoor work, it's all year, and working in the cold and snow versus now when it's 95 degrees and humid, it's a massive challenge to, stay hydrated or stay warm, mm-hmm. and make sure I'm eating enough.
Yeah.
It's actually a challenge.
So to kind of flip it, what's your favorite thing about working at Groundwork Ohio River Valley?
If I had to choose one thing, because there's so many that are so
you can
good.
say more than one if you want. I won't tell anyone.
Okay. It's that I get to be a part of the incredible work we do. Our tagline is changing places, changing lives, and It's not just a motto, it's something we actually do through our green team and our green core. We manage to actually change people's lives the way they think while having a very positive impact on the environment. And I also really like working at Groundwork because it is like a family. We're all very close. And I know that's something I feel like a lot of places say, but it actually feels that way, that we care about not only our work products, but how we're actually doing in our lives.
Yeah, and that's important for a workplace for a lot of people, is to feel connected with what you're working on, but also the people you're working with. I think that's really important, and especially to our younger viewers who will be going into the workforce one day, that the personality of the people you're working with is pretty important. Yeah, so that's something that I don't think we talk about a lot as adults working in our jobs. Is I genuinely like my coworkers, or I genuinely like the company I work for and my coworkers. Yeah. So I get that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about environmental science, but if someone who's watching is interested in learning more, do you have any suggestions on where they could look? Your website, I've looked through it. It does have information on there, but is there anywhere else, or any place you could think of that we could share?
Sure. So yeah, of course, our website, but there's also, if you're looking for more information just about general environmental science, the National Science Foundation is a good place to start. That's nsf.gov. The Environmental Protection Agency is kind of an adult-ish kind of website, so you have to dig through things. It's not very user-friendly since it is a government website, but EPA.gov. And then one of our partners is the Nature Conservancy, and they're an international organization, but we also have Ohio chapter that is very active and posts a lot of information on like bird species and tree species. So that would be nature.org.
Okay, and we'll share those in the event description for anyone who's interested in learning more. I think especially websites like that are going to be used now that school's starting, and some folks might be working with their kids at home. So having resources like that right now especially is, I think, really important. Because I think this will be a very untraditional school year for a lot. Yeah. And my last question for you, Sophie, is just what advice would you give to young girls and young women who are interested in maybe going on to a STEM career?
Right. So right now, STEM does seem to be a bit of a boys' club, and you might expect more men than women, but that definitely shouldn't stop you. And unfortunately, you might have to deal with your colleagues or superiors putting you into a box based on your gender, but you don't have to occupy that box if you don't want to. And along with being put in that box might come different unfair treatment. And unfortunately, it is up to us to call it out and address it, because if we don't, then it'll just keep going.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's important for a lot of people to hear, no matter what your age is or what role you work in. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for joining us today. And thank you everyone for watching. And thanks to Sophie Revis of Groundwork Ohio River Valley for joining us. And we'll see you next time.